The celebration of British military triumph can be seen in the many paintings of the Battle of now Tipu Sultan of Mysore, as you know, was one of the most powerful enemies of the British. He was finally defeated in 1799. At the famous Battle of Notice, the way for battle scenes in painted in picture at the British troops are shown storming the fort from the sides, cutting Tipu and soldiers and the pieces, climbing the walls, raising the British flag aloft on the ramps. Tipu fort. It is a painting full of action and energy. The painting dramatizes the events and glorifies the British Trump next imperial history. Paintings sought to create a public memory of imperial Trump's victories had to be remembered, implanted in the memory of people both in India and Britain. Next, united in the introduction of the Education Act in 1870, there was no widespread education for the population as a whole. For most of the 19th century, child labor being widely prevalent, poor children could not be sent to school for their earning was critical for the survival of the family. The number of schools was also limited to those run by the church or set by wealthy individuals. It was only after the coming into force of the Education Act that schools were opened by the government and compulsory schooling was introduced next. One of the most important educational thinkers of the period was Thomas Arnold, who became the headmaster of the private school Rugby, favoring a secondary school circumless which had a detailed study of the Greek and Roman classic written 2000 years earlier. He said next, it has always seemed to me one of the great advantages of the course of study generally pursued in our English schools that it draws our mind off conditionally to dwell upon the past every day. We are engaged in studying the language, the history, and the thoughts of men who lived nearly or more than 2000 years ago. Arnold felt that a study of the classic disciplined in the mind. In fact, most educators of the time believed that such a discipline was necessary because young people were naturally savage and needed to be controlled to become civilized adults. They needed to understand society's notions of right and wrong, proper and improper behavior. Education, especially one which disciplined their minds, was meant to guide them on this path. Next, can you suggest how such idea might have influenced thinking about education of the poor in England and our native in the colony? Next, as nationalized sentiments spread, other thinkers also began thinking of a system of national education which would be radically different from that set up by the British. Tagore's Abode to Peace. Next, many of you men have heard of. Do you know why it was established and by whom? Rabindranath Tagore. The institution in 1901. As a child, Tagore hated going to school. He found it suffocating and observing the school appeared like a prison, for he could never do what he felt like doing. So, while other children listened to the teacher, Tagore's mind would wander away. Next, the experience of his school days in Calcutta shaped Tagore's ideas of education. Next, on growing up, he wanted to set up a school where the child was happy, where the could be free and creative, where she was able to explore her own thoughts and desires. Tagore felt that childhood ought to be timing a self-learning outside the right and restricting discipline of the schooling system set up by the British teachers had to be imaginative, understand the child and help the child develop her curiosity. According to Tagore, of existing school killed the natural desire of the child to be creative, her sense of wonder. Next, Tagore was of the view the creative learning could be encouraged only within a natural environment, so he chose to set up this school 100 kilometers away from Calcutta in a rural setting. He saw it as an abode of peace where living in harmony with nature, children could cultivate their natural creativity. Next, in many senses, Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi thought about education in similar ways. Next, there were, however, differences too. Gandhiji was highly critical of Western civilization and its worship of machines and technology. Tagore wanted to combine elements of modern Western civilization with what he saw as the best within Indian tradition. He emphasized the need to teach science and technology and along with art, music and dance. Next, many individuals and thinkers were thus thinking about the way national educational system could be fashioned. Next, some wanted change within the system set up by the British and felt that the system could be extended so as to include wider sections of people. Others urged that alternative systems be created so that people were educated into a culture that was truly national. Next, who was to define that was truly national? The debate about was this national education ought to be continued till after independence.